partner and fund manager for Outpost Fund.
Thank you very much, President Debbie. All right, I'd like to start by welcoming all the guests that were able to join us today. We'd welcome you individually, but we've got a great program to get to. So I think as a group, I'd just like to say thanks for joining us today. We'd also like to wish birthdays to a number of our Rotarians today. So please join me in wishing Joe, L, JD, and Rick all happy birthdays. So send them a message, send them a card. On my birthday a few months ago, or about a year ago, I got a nice card in the mail from one of you. So happy birthday to all of you. And we'll move on to some quick announcements before I throw it back to Debbie. First off, our virtual happy hour is tonight at 5:30. It's been really great over the last few weeks before Thanksgiving, seeing more and more of you show up to each of those. So we'd hope to see you there tonight at 5:30. There'll be an invite link in the meeting recap email that comes just following the meeting, right about 1 o'clock Mountain Time. Next, we will hold our annual club and DRCF meetings at our regular club meeting next Thursday, December 10th. So please stay tuned for an announcement by President Debbie with the slate of nominees for your incoming board of directors and trustees, to be voted on by you, of course. This will be followed up by a formal email later this week. And then finally, save the date for our annual Club 31 family holiday party on Thursday, December 17th. While this will be virtual, it won't keep us from celebrating the holiday season with one another and with many surprises in store. I wonder what that could mean. Reservations will be required, so keep an eye out on your emails for that as well. President Debbie, that's all for me. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Troy. I would like to share with you an update on our nominating committees. We have a couple that have been formed, and the Rotary Club Board of Director Nominating Committee met yesterday. They have nominated the following Rotarians to serve on the Rotary Club of Denver Board of Directors for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2021. We are waiting for confirmation from one more member, but the 3 that are currently on the slate are Lisa Gulius, RJ Ross, and Gary Shrink. I would like to sincerely thank the directors whose terms expire on June 30th, 2021. Those directors are Lucius Ashby, Nancy Austin, Bob Kapelke, and Will Snyder. So I saw bed clamping, so we'll do some virtual claps here. I would also like to thank the members who served on the club's nominating committee. Those members are John Finnegan, Bill Immig, Peg Johnston, Michelle Maldonado, and Seth Patterson. So thank you for that. In addition, the Denver Rotary Club Foundation nominating committee has also nominated the following members to serve on the Denver Rotary Club Foundation Board of Trustees for a 6-year term beginning July 1st, 2021. Mark Donovan, Kevin Shellady, John Stewart, and Marlene Wilkins. The Denver Rotary Club Foundation trustees have also nominated Jim White to fulfill the remaining term of a trustee vacancy through the end of June 30th, 2023. On behalf of Carter Sales and myself, we would like to sincerely thank the trustees whose terms expire on June 30th, 2020. Those trustees are Harriet Downer, Jack Green, Wynn Gandera, Dennis Cooper, and Don Caney. We would also like to thank the members who served on this nominating committee for the Denver Rotary Club Foundation nominating committee. So on behalf of both President Carter Sales and myself, those members are Sandy Adams, Colleen Kozad, Alan Friedberg, Bill Houston, Chris Peters, and Gary Shrink. These 9 nominees that we shared will be presented for election at our club and foundation annual meeting next Thursday, December 10th, during our regular club meeting. Additional nominations for directors and trustees may be made in writing and signed by 6 members and filed with the executive director prior to the annual meeting. On behalf of myself and your Denver Rotary Club Foundation President Carter Sales, I want to thank you once again to both the directors and trustees whose positions are coming to term for serving our board so effectively. And again, thank you also goes to the 2 nominating committees for their very thoughtful recommendations. So thank you. Next is Seth Patterson. So Seth is presenting an award for us today. Seth is a past club president and a district Rotarians for Mental Health co-chair. Seth is also, in his personal life, the principal of Patterson and Company Commercial Real Estate. Seth?
Thanks, President Debbie. Whoever said Friday the 13th is unlucky must not have been a Rotarian. This year on Friday, November 13th, Rotarians for Mental Health hit the trifecta. First, our Rotary Connects project received a Zone Innovation Award. I still don't know what a zone is. That project provided cell phones to about 750 low-income clients of the 9 community mental health services serving our district so that they could continue their therapy using emerging telehealth technology. Second, the project was part of an award to our district for our pandemic relief work from the Association of Fundraising Professionals for National Philanthropy Day. We do not have time here, but Lauren will send a link to an awesome 2-minute video about that work. Some of you will recall in 2008, during dearly departed Sue Fox's term as club president, our club was recognized as an outstanding service organization from that same National Philanthropy Day organization. Also that year, another dearly departed member and then CEO of Denver Kids, Donna Holteen, was recognized by this group. Last but not least, on November 13th, the Rotary Club of Denver Southeast Foundation granted $2,000 to Rotarians for Mental Health to offset a portion of our 2020 State of the State Symposium expenses. So during this period of giving thanks, the members of Denver Rotary have much to be thankful for. The community service and fellowship of 2 of our outstanding members, Sue and Donna, our support to some of those less fortunate so they can maintain a critical health service, and the continued support of fellow Rotarians and some prominent non-Rotarians for our pandemic work. Not to be greedy, but there is one other thing we could wish to be thankful for. That is spreading the knowledge of the good works of Rotary beyond Rotary. So anytime that anyone asks you what you're thankful for, please consider something that you value from your Rotary involvement. Go Rotary.
Thank you, Seth. A proud day to be a Rotarian for sure, and a proud day to be a member of the Denver Rotary Club. Next up is Harriet Downer to give us an update on Colorado Gives Day. Harriet, as you heard, is our current Denver Rotary Club Foundation trustee whose term expires next June. Harriet is also the president and owner of Logical Connections.
Thank you, President Debbie. All right, so can you hear me? I'm getting mixed messages from Zoom, so thank you very much for the thumbs up. Colorado Gives Day is what day? Next Tuesday, the 8th of December, until midnight that day for all you procrastinators. For the 5th year, DRCF, our Denver Rotary Club Foundation, is participating. And let's succeed this year beyond our wildest dreams, please. So first, I'd like to do a poll with a virtual show of hands. Who has participated in or supported our fall fundraisers in the past? Branch Rickey, Dancing Through the Decades, Angela. Tremendous. Thank you for those votes. In the past, a portion of the proceeds from that fundraiser has gone to the grantees as available funds for the next year. This year, the DRCF trustees have voted that 100% of the proceeds from Colorado Gives Day, CGD, will go into the grantable funds for this next cycle. That is applied for and awarded in the spring for distribution starting the 1st of July. So I and my fellow DRCF trustees are hoping that whether you supported our fundraisers in the past or not, or you're new to the club and don't know what I'm talking about, or you're a visitor today to our meeting, we hope you will step up and donate now, before Colorado Gives Day or on Colorado Gives Day, for the very worthy causes that we award our grants to, and all the good work all of our grantees do here and around the world. These are causes and projects near and dear to the hearts of Denver Rotarians. And did I mention it's next Tuesday, but you can enter your donations now. For those who have already donated, thank you very much. There's a bunch of you. To those who have been working on this team and making this possible, thank you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You've received emails from me already. You'll get another one today. You'll get another one next Tuesday. So look for them. And I will put the link in the chat too. Let's do this. Let's do more this year for Colorado Gives Day and DRCF than any of our past 4 years. Thank you for your consideration and your generosity.
All right,
Back to
thank
you.
you. Thank you very much, Harriet. As I always say, we are one great club with two great foundations. Colorado Gives Day supporting our own foundation. And now I turn it over to Peg Johnston, who will be doing our good news buckets, special today for Polio Plus in honor of our speaker. Peg is a retired principal of Business Acquisitions Ltd. She is also the Rotary Foundation Support and Polio Plus Chair. So Peg.
Very briefly, because I think we're running about 5 minutes behind today. The red bucket today is for our Polio Plus Fund at Rotary International, and it's to honor Grant Wilkins and our speaker, David Talbot. And for those of you who have good news, we will have a drawing today for Grant Wilkins' book called 2 Drops, talking about all the things that he and Marlene did to help with the polio eradication since 1985. There are 2 countries that still are endemic, and that is Afghanistan and Pakistan. There is great need for polio dollars. 137 world polio virus cases this year to date, 751 circulating vaccine. That's way above what we've had in the past few years. So if you have good news, oh, and one last thing, please look for Todd Bacon's service this week, because Celebrate Our Service, it's going to be all about Polio Plus, and you'll learn some things about it. So those who would like to give good news, if you'll raise your hand, click on the participants and raise your hand, and I can see it, the little blue hand at the bottom there. Okay, Debbie has her hand raised up instead. Okay.
I know, sorry. I'm
for it.
just going to say good news all the way around, and I'll be very brief, but count me in.
Okay, anybody else? Good news, the book. Yes, Seth.
I already gave my good news.
Oh, all right, thank you very much. Any other good news? I don't see any raised hands here. Come on, guys. We need the money for Polio Plus. We should have at least 5.
Jill's there.
Anybody else? I don't say, it's hard to see the, yes, Bed.
Jill,
Hard to
Ben,
see the hands.
Here,
Ed?
Jack Green.
Green.
Okay, we got Ved and then we got Jack. See, I don't know the order because you won't raise your hands. All right.
I'm
Sounds
raising.
fine.
I can't get the blue thing.
Okay, okay. Ved first.
Bed, you're on mute.
Okay, then Jack, why don't you go ahead while he's unmuting?
Okay, I have great news. After about 5 or 6 weeks of dealing with a kidney stone, on again, off again agony, I had an emergency stonectomy a week or so back at Sky Ridge Hospital. Sky Ritz is absolutely accurate on that one. And almost all the tubes are out. I have one more tube to get out, but I'm recovering and recovered and fantastic, and don't wish it on anybody ever. So the watchword from the guys who deal with these things is hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. That's my
Thank you.
news.
Thank you. Another Bed, are you around us?
My good news is that today what I heard from Sid, what I heard from Seth, and from what I'm hearing from you, I'm so delighted to be in this uplifting setting. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll throw in my $20 too for Grant Wilkins and David Talbot. And we'll put Marlene in there too. So are there any others before we close it off?
I think
Jill.
we have Jill. Yep,
Pardon, Debbie?
Jill.
Jill. Go
I-
for it.
I want to give $20 in memory of Grant Wilkins. Working on the Grant Wilkins Polio Plus fundraiser was the first time that I got to do some fundraising consulting for this Rotary Club. And I am grateful, very grateful to both Peg and Jim Johnson for pulling me into the fold and getting me involved. And I know that I did not have a chance to know Grant as long as many of you did, but for the short period of time that I did get to know him, what an amazing human being. And I'm grateful that Marlene is still sticking with Rotary and we get to see her smiling face. I'm thrilled that she's going to be on the DRCF Board of Trustees. And I don't know if Jim's on here too, but hugs and kisses to Jim. And yay, Wilkins, let's eradicate polio.
All right. And we're going to cut it off at that and look in the chat box to see the link in order to donate. But again, be sure and watch Todd Bacon's Celebrate Our Service coming up next week. So from there, I'm going to go right into the introduction for our speaker, David Talbot. Many of you already know him. His talk today is Mobility, the Forgotten Gift. David's been a Rotarian with Mountain Foothills Club for many years. He actually lives in Denver, real close, actually downtown. At the age of 2.5, David contracted polio. And he worked very hard all through school to try to overcome that. But in 2005, when he was visiting in Uganda with his wife, he noticed that there was such a need for mobility devices that when he got back, he decided to start up a new nonprofit called Crutches for Africa. So today he's going to tell us about Crutches for Africa and a little about himself. Welcome, David.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for joining the meeting today. President Debbie, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with your club today. And for those of you that I know and have met personally, I'm very glad I'm glad to see you again. This lockdown has been very strange indeed. However, it's opened the doors for these kind of Zoom meetings. And I'm really getting around the country much more inexpensively lately, not having to fly around. So can you all hear me okay? Okay, I got a nod there. All right. So I want to share this. And so Peg, with her introduction, already told you about my early, very young days of having polio. This was me a little bit later. This is after I started polio Crutches for Africa. And so this was after I became a Rotarian. So this is kind of my situation these days, is back on crutches. But this was me about 3 weeks before I had polio. This is in Washington Park. I still live a couple of blocks away from there. And 3 weeks later, they had the announcement that Dr. Salk had a functional vaccine for polio. And that was when I came down with polio, was right in that time slot in 1955. So this is not a picture of me, but it's similar to the situation that I went through as a youngster at Denver Children's Hospital. And I had marvelous people there that I remember working with me, physical therapists. that did great work for me. I started out, as you see here, once I got out of the wheelchair, I had braces on both legs and the crutches, and gradually got out of the brace on my right leg and the polio centering on my left leg, which created, of course, all the issues that I had with walking and running. However, those challenges really made me focus on physical development. They told us as polio survivors to go, 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 push, 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 use it or lose it. So for me, everything was a physical challenge. Now, if they'd only told me I was going to be stupid, I would have probably done much better in school. But that wasn't the case. This is a picture of me in high school in Arvada. I was a middle linebacker. So I overcame my polio really quite successfully. Even seeing my friends now at reunions as the years accumulate, they remark that they don't even remember seeing me walking with a limp. So that is a remarkable thing to me because it was something that I was so focused on. As a teen, and even in elementary school, I was introduced to the Colorado Outward Bound program and was very blessed to have the opportunity to face that challenge in 1970 and went through the Colorado Outward Bound. And this is me on the top of Mount Sneffels. And again, so facing and overcoming those physical challenges was a really big thing for me. This, even to the point of lunacy, this was 1974. Now, you'll note that you can see a bull coming into the arena here, and here I am over here. I ran with the bulls 5 days in Pamplona that summer. I only got ran over once and acquired no additional holes in my body. So that was a very good thing. So again, pressing that physical aspect and again, overcoming that, and then was quite dismayed. About 18 to 20 years ago, I started developing post-polio syndrome, which is a recurrence of the symptoms of the disease, not the disease itself. Those symptoms are joint, bone, and muscle pain and increasing loss of function of the limb or limbs that were affected. So for me, it was my left leg. I've had to go back to using crutches, back to wearing a brace on my left leg. I use a mobility scooter around my house. I use crutches all the time and a walker, a wheeled walker, simply because I can't walk anymore. I can't walk. And that is really the point of what we're working with Crutches for Africa, is to not only help survivors of polio, but other people who face the disability and the mobility disability itself. Today is International Persons of Disabilities Day around the world. It's something that we don't see a lot of in the United States, but in other countries, there's quite a bit of focus on that. And so that is something that, of course, I became more conscious of when I started to have issues with post-polio syndrome. And I'm totally sold, and that's one of the things that sold me out to become a Rotarian, was the effort to eradicate polio. However, we have a massive situation that is coming up behind it. As an example, now in Africa, the number of people with disabilities is estimated at the staggering number of 80 million people. About a quarter of those people are going to be mobility challenged. So we're looking at 20 million people that don't have the equipment that they need. So these are all things that I found out as I started to recognize that there were issues that other people were facing just like I was. And Peg also mentioned that I was in Uganda in 2005, and I saw a woman there whose right foot was touching the back of her right shoulder. Now, just imagine that. Right foot is touching the back of her right shoulder. And what she was using for a crutch that day was a green tree branch, about so big around, that somebody had ripped off of a tree for her. And she had the gnarly part that had been ripped off the tree. She had that under her armpit. And that's what she was using to hop along and try to move anywhere. Now, I want to ask you a question at this point. What in your body would you not want to lose? What is the primary thing that you would not want to lose? And generally, when I ask people this in a group, in a room, the answer is going to be vision. And I'm totally with that. I wouldn't want to lose my vision either. But one of the things that we so take for granted that we don't even recognize that we can lose it is mobility. Imagine getting up this morning and not being able to get out of bed and do those necessary things that we all have to do. Go to the bathroom, make the coffee, do all of those things that we have to do. Now, one of the things that, of course, and rightly so, that we're focused on in Rotary is water. But if you can't get to the well, mobility becomes even a higher priority than water. If you can't get to school, then you have an issue with being able to gain education. So mobility is a key factor for all of us. Now, I've got a short video I want to show you here. And this man obviously did not have polio, but instead stepped on a landmine. So this has been his way of moving with a stick. He's on his way to one of our distributions. Now, this is something you won't see at King Soopers or Walmart, really, or anywhere in North America. This woman had polio, and this is how she is forced to move. She too was at a distribution, as these people are. Imagine having to move around your grandmother or any loved one in a wheelbarrow, simply because they don't have access to the equipment that we do, and that actually ends up going into the landfill. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. This woman, again, a polio survivor, and I find it remarkable that she has a smile like that, dealing with this kind of a situation, crawling on the dirt, crawling through wood chips and gravel, dirt, and anything else that ends up on the road. A man with a very unfortunate situation. Not only did he have polio, but he had severe malaria that left him in this situation where he cannot move at all without the aid of family and friends. Imagine the caregivers. They have to attend to this man through all of his life. Now, this man also had polio. I had surgery to correct my right leg so it would not grow to 6'1" like that man's difference in his legs. Of course, here we see a girl being moved again by family. And this goes to the severe point of even when she has to go to the bathroom, they have to transport her. This woman is in a refugee camp. This is in Zambia, just over the border from Angola. Again, a polio survivor. Now, even though we've given her a wheelchair, she's had to resort to using her sticks to overcome this obstacle right here. And she's trying to get into that office, and we find this an incredible challenge in developing countries. Now we see a situation that, ladies, please try to imagine this. Imagine that you have to go about your day, every day, taking care of your family, going shopping on your hands and knees. All these people are coming into distributions. This is what happens. This is what Crutches for Africa is about, is to help people to gain mobility so that they can take part in the life and the community where they live. This is their gathering point. A disused building that is in collapse. So that's what they use to get together and try to find ways to empower each other to make a living. Again, another example of what in Africa is called a crawler. Obviously, you can see the young man's knees and shins, been crawling in the dirt. And what he's got in his lap is actually a homemade soccer ball. Tied up bags, tied up with strings and parts of inner tubes. Now, I don't know why he's got that, but again, dreams of something different than having to crawl. Again, another man, this gentleman, I believe, was either in Togo or Nigeria, and his situation is a bit different. He had club feet, which is extremely unfortunate because at a younger age, this can be corrected. And we are extremely blessed when we find infants and toddlers with this situation so that we can intercept this kind of a problem and get them into some sort of program where this can be corrected so that they don't have a life of disability themselves. Here's another gentleman that's a polio survivor. So again, we see lots and lots of polio survivors. So again, once we end polio, that's not the end of the problem. We're still helping people like this that have had polio, and the incredible amount of people who are facing the issues of post-polio syndrome. And that's a whole nother situation that is yet to be addressed. So this man, though, you can see both of his legs are skinny, and he's using those wooden blocks to raise up off the ground, and not only to give him a little bit of altitude above the ground, but to keep him out of the garbage and anything else that ends up on the streets and on the roads on the ground. Again, another polio survivor, very typical situation where he's using a pole and he wraps that polio affected right leg around that pole and then holding the pole and using that pole in a striding rowing motion that replaces his stride for that leg. This creates a problem that you really can't carry anything. And this is one of the frustrating things that I have to face on a regular basis is my hands are always full and I can't carry anything. I've got to carry around a large satchel to be able to put my tools and whatever I'm working on, put that into something else to carry. And I got to tell you, getting in and out of my Jeep with my crutches, well, it's a mixed blessing. I bless them and I curse them at the same time because getting them out of the back seat of my Jeep and getting them out the door, and it's just those kind of daily little frustrations that accumulate. Another guy who had polio, another example of a pole, another example of what polio looks like. And this woman, let me do just her. This is, again, a situation with polio. Again, I was telling you about the woman that I saw in Uganda that had her foot back up against her shoulder. The tendons pull up during polio. Mine were cut, so I didn't have to face any of these kind of problems. But as you can obviously see here, the tendons not only have pulled her foot up, but it turned it around backwards. And you can see we've gotten to her with a pair of aluminum crutches because she was using a pole also. Now, another video clip, just a very short one. And this was on an island in Lake Victoria. We did this, let's see, this is a very recent video that we made. But again, just the struggles that people face when they don't have the mobility equipment that we have available here that gets thrown away. We've got so much of it that even the Salvation Army and Goodwill rejects it. They don't want it. We got too much. And even if they do accept it, even what they accept sometimes ends up getting thrown away. So again, dumpster. So this is when we decided that we really needed to take some action. Back in 2005, we started our first collection, 2006. And we started out with a small amount. 235 pair of crutches was our first shipment. We got that into Uganda, and this is the first woman that we gave equipment to. This is her house in the background here, mud stick thatch. Even though she does have a crutch back here, which is really not that bad at all. They're generally much, much worse or just using a stick. She was very happy to have the aluminum crutches. And this woman is a remarkable situation that because someone donated a pair of crutches to Crutches for Africa, and we were able to get them to this woman, it completely changed her life. In rural Africa, a woman must be able to carry water. And as you saw with the sticks that people were using, their hands were completely occupied, so there was no way they could carry a bucket of water. Also with a stick, you put a bucket of water on your head like this woman is carrying here, that rowing motion is simply going to launch that bucket right off of her head. So with a pair of crutches, she was able to carry water, which then allowed her to take care of a family. She got married, she has a husband, she has children, all because her mobility situation changed and she got a pair of crutches. Early days, and we still do this when we can, is buddy shipping. Here we're loading a container to go to Ghana. This is somebody else's container. They had all kinds of stuff in there. They had generators, cars, refrigerators, and they gave us their extra space to load mobility equipment into. And so the first 10,000 pieces of equipment that we shipped up until 2010 was all buddy shipping. Then we started shipping our own containers. And this is just a tiny view of the containers that are located at the Mombasa port in Mombasa, Kenya. The ports are absolutely amazing and incredible with the number of containers that go in and out of these locations. We unloaded our first container at the railhead there in Mombasa, put it on a train, moved it up to Nairobi, put it into trucks, and distributed the contents in 2 weeks. And this was with very thin contacts. We actually would find somebody with a disability, then find out that they were in a group, and organizing these people would happen in just like in moments practically. And we were able to directly distribute our first container load, like you see here, in 2 weeks. Now, an average container, a 40-foot container, will hold plus or minus 3,000 pieces of equipment. It costs $3 per item, whatever it is, to get it into the hands of somebody in a developing country. $3, whether it's a pair of crutches or a wheelchair. So a container basically costs us about $9,000 to get it there. This is James. James was in that first distribution, and we have been tracking James. I just had news the other day from a local Rotarian, Carol Carper, who was in the Conifer Club. Just saw him a couple of days ago. In this picture, James is 49 years old. James had polio when he was 5. He's been in this situation for 44 years. His mom, if she was 15 when she had him, would have been 64 at this point. She had to move him like this all the time to see to all of his needs. Now you can see how much trouble the polio caused for James. We just don't see this in the United States, but we see both of his legs and one arm that are twisted up behind him. We're weighing James here. James weighs 62 pounds in this picture. He also doesn't fit in a wheelchair. So we had a problem. How do we make something work not only for James, but for his mom and any other caregivers in like situations, bicycle trailers. So this is one of the other things that we collect. Now, of course, that we have the big four, and that's part of why we call it Crutches for Africa. That's crutches, canes, walkers, and wheelchairs. But basically, anything that'll help somebody with mobility are the things that we collect, ship, and distribute at no cost to the recipient. Another thing that's really beneficial here is the baby jogger. Baby joggers are so incredibly important when we have a client that comes into us and has absolutely no muscle strength whatsoever. So if we were to put them into a wheelchair, they would collapse in such a way that it would create issues for their respiration. In a baby jogger, it's like a racing car harness, straps over the shoulders, around the waist, and up in between the legs. That clips together right over the belly button and helps to hold them so that they can breathe correctly. We never have enough of these. 40-foot container, that's what it looks like. Packing stuff in, wrapping up the crutches, prepping stuff. This was a 40-foot container that went out of Maine, and we have consolidation points from the West Coast to the East Coast, south and north. This is a little bit of chaos at the end of the container. Generally, they're very organized until the very end when we stack in the remaining space. We don't like shipping airspace, so we squeeze in as much as we can. Recipients. The response that we get from people that gain mobility. This boy was carried in. And this distribution was at a school. At this moment, children are cheering for him because he's able to get up and move. And you can see very easily his response to the whole situation. A woman in Zambia, a leprosy camp, I had no idea. Crawling in and getting her a wheelchair. And her face says to me, gratitude. This was a volunteer that was with us on that trip in Zambia, and this speaks volumes. Our goal is to get people up off the ground. This is the top of a crutch. This is what the crutches look like. Imagine trying to use those blocks of woods on a daily basis under your armpits. The transformation, a new pair of aluminum crutches. Another transformation, again, a crawler. Look at her knees and shins. And that says it all. Again, her face and rejoicing at having something better than crawling on her hands and knees. However, now I want to point out the guy in the background. I'm not so sure what he's thinking back here. There's a whole nother thing going on there. And this is the best part, an empty container. My wife got this picture of a local that was thrilled with what we had brought to these people. So this is what Crutches is about. This is what we do. We've so far 144,000 pieces of equipment, and this stuff is everywhere. And what we ask is not only the help in collecting, but also, of course, in funding. We still have to collect money to be able to do the shipping. No one's paid in our organization. There's nobody on salary. So, and we try to get everything for free. We've recently been gifted with storage space out by I-70 and Pena Boulevard. And so we have free storage here. All of our storage around the country, everything is done for free as much as possible. So our biggest expense is shipping. So I will wrap it up at this point and see if there's any questions.
Well, thank you so much, David. And there are a number of questions and a comment that I want to share with you. Jim White shared in the chat, I'm not sure if you saw it, but his wife Lee contracted polio in 1955 in Wash Park also. Jim shared that many who swam in the lake there did. She developed scoliosis from that.
Amazing. Yeah, it was a shocking time and situation. And, you know, I remember the kids that were on my ward, we didn't have private rooms then, you know, we were just, I don't know, there was probably 18 or 20 of us in my ward. Do you know what year that was? Was that in?
1955.
So we might have been in the same ward.
Interesting. Do you partner with Project Cure at all as they gather lightly used medical equipment, including crutches?
Yes, I deliver to them medical equipment that is donated to us errantly, I'll say. And then they also will periodically provide us with their overflow of mobility equipment. So I work back and forth with Doug and Project Cure in that.
Very good, very good. And I'm sure you know Doug is a past president of our club, so very good to have that connection. Another question. What have been some of the most effective ways Rotarians have supported Crutches for Africa?
Wow. I would say that I'm going to go through this quick. International convention, that's huge. That is where we make so many connections for both collection and distribution, simply because the world comes to us in a house of friendship. So that's a massive way. Collection, of course, is the next step in that, and getting things into our consolidation points. We had Rotarians recently that brought down a truckload from Minnesota that brought it down to Denver. They covered the cost in that. So that's, of course, a huge blessing when that happens, because that helps us to save our funding for the things that we absolutely have to spend money on, which is shipping. Then periodically the fundraisers that happen, Interact collectors, Rotaractors that are involved, wrapping and loading containers are all blessings. And on the other side, on the recipients, the same thing is true in the unloading and distribution. And those are oftentimes our key partners in countries, because that helps to provide a number of eyeballs on the project and things don't go south.
Very good. Some good ways. I'm going to sneak in two more questions. Rotary has pushed the issue of polio for decades. What do you say to those who are eager for a new cause to address?
Patience. You know what? In a military frame, we can't start a new war until we finish this one.
And we're so close.
You know, and I tell you what, we have to be very cautious in that idea that we don't let our guard down, because we have got to push this over the edge and see it totally eliminated. We cannot lose our focus. People, I've lived with this on a daily basis, and every child, every report I see that comes in when there's another child that is affected with polio tears my heart out. And we are the people, Rotary, we're the ones to get it done. And let's work on other projects, right? Let's do that. But you know, let's stay on the path.
All right. And finally, while it's difficult to predict, what are the plans for getting back to Africa in 2021? Are you able to support the mission without an in-person visit?
Absolutely. We've established a number, well, in all of our countries, and we're working in 20 countries in Africa and 11 countries now outside, 12 countries outside. We actually have a container that's going to go to Mexico in 2 weeks. That's out of a project out of Arizona. Then we've got another container going to go out of Los Angeles to Costa Rica. So we're opening up some other parts of the world where there's a need. Wherever people need mobility equipment, that's our key. The other thing is, in getting back to Africa, is dealing with the travel restrictions that we have no idea what those are going to be. Are we going to need to have verification that we've had our vaccines? Is there going to be a 2-week lockdown for us when we get there. So we really have no idea yet when we're going to be able to physically go back to Africa. I'm pushing right now. I'm working on 4 shipments, actually. I continue to work on Kenya. Kenya has become very difficult. Uganda is in the throes of an election with extreme violence. And so we're in pause in generating our next shipment to Uganda. I have 3 very strong contacts in Zambia. And Zambia, we've got a golden ticket. We just show up at the border and they just shoo us right in. So, but it's $7,000 to get it from the port into landlocked Zambia. So we're looking for Zambian part. So these are the things that go into the picture of developing, what we're going to do next and where things go. Our goal with our partners in Africa is at a minimum that they would pay any of the customs fees and provide inland transport to give them an element of ownership in the project.
Well, thank you so much. And it's incredibly just pertinent that in honor of your speaking with us today, we are making a donation to End Polio Now to vaccinate 33 children. And as you know, with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation 2-for-1 match, there will be 100 children inoculated against polio. So thank you so very much to a project that is near and dear to Rotarians around the globe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next week's meeting will be by Zoom on Thursday, December 10th. The title of the program is 58 Peaks for Charity. Brittany Woodrum from Shelter Box. So make sure you join us then. And don't forget, we are also holding our annual club and Denver Rotary Club Foundation meetings for you as members to vote on your incoming board directors and trustees. So Peg, who won the book? Oops, you're on mute.
And I want to thank Melly Kennard because she's the one that donated this book, and it's going to go to Jack Green.
Great, 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 great. All right, so if you will join me in reciting the Rotary 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe, stay well.